Imagine owning a doll that is so creepy that her mere presence in your home makes it feel as if she's actually alive. This is something that happened to me and something I want to talk to you about today. Story time. My name is Sharice Williams. I'm a paranormal investigator, psychic tarot reader, and author of books like The Witch's Guide to Ghost Hunting and The Witch's Guide to Haunted Objects. And our story today actually features this girl right here, known as Betty, and she is on the cover of my book. So I actually have a video here on my YouTube channel if you want to scroll back and see it, or maybe I'll link it somewhere here, of my time with Betty. So Betty started out as a paranormal experiment, and this was, I think it was 2020. Either way, it was around the time that we were all spending a lot of time in our homes and we weren't really getting to go out and investigate very often. So I was thinking of how can I bring the paranormal to me? And I had the idea of this paranormal experiment. So I reached out to my friend Amanda Paulson, Pretty Effin' Spooky, and said, hey, here's my idea for this experiment. Would you like to participate in it with me? And she was like, absolutely. I'm not going to get too much into the experiment part of my time with her. If you want to see that, go check out the other video of it. I know Amanda, I'm pretty sure she has her time with the doll on her channel as well. But I am going to just get into my experience, a couple of the really creepy things that happened here with her, as well as when I got reunited with her like a year and a half later, something crazy that happened. As a paranormal investigator, I had encountered haunted objects before. I had never owned one myself or actively tried to acquire a haunted object to bring into my home to investigate. When the doll first arrived to me we ordered her from eBay, so she came in the mail to my house. And my first experience with her, opening her up, it definitely felt like something was attached to her for sure. I was like, all right, we did good. We actually picked a real haunted item. Like, there's something to this doll. I began my investigation with her with doing a spirit box session. And I found myself just starting to get more and more irritated. The more I was asking the doll questions and the more I was waiting for responses, I just was getting progressively more and more agitated and irritated. And this was pretty much my experience with her for the whole week that I had her at my house. I found that every time I took her down and sat her with me to investigate, I just was getting irritated and pissy. And I say I took her down because when I wasn't actively investigating her, I had her sitting on my altar space, surrounded in a circle of salt and protective crystals, which I don't actually think did a whole lot for her because I don't think it did a whole lot other than maybe just piss her off. Another thing that was really weird during my week with her was the dreams that I was having. I was having so many dreams of just awful dreams about me and my husband. And my dreams are always very vivid and very emotionally charged. And so a lot of the time when I wake up, depending what was happening in my dream, it's like that energy, that emotion carries over. And so it was like I found myself just kind of irritated with my husband throughout that week. The kicker, though, was that my husband actually remembered some of the dreams that he had. This man does not remember his dreams ever. The entire time I've been with him, he's maybe remembered like two or three dreams, and it was just little bits and pieces of it. But when we had this doll here, he remembered his dreams, and he was also having dreams of like infidelity and everything on my part. It was almost as if the energy attached to this doll was trying to cause marital issues, was trying to cause like tension and stress and agitation. As if that wasn't weird enough, probably the weirdest moment for me was it was one of the last nights that I had her at my house. And it was early, early morning. Like the sun wasn't even up yet. Maybe the sky was just starting to lighten a tiny bit. Either way, it was early. And I'm laying in bed and I hear footsteps going down my hall and back and down my hall and back. And this happened two or three times. And I thought, oh, it's my son getting up. What is he doing up? It's so early. So I got up to see, what are you doing? Are you awake for the day? What's happening? He was in his bed, passed out. I looked in my daughter's room. She's in her bed, passed out. The dog and the cat were in my bed, so it definitely wasn't them either. And I was like, what the heck? And the weird part to that is in her eBay listing, it even mentioned that the doll will get up and walk around. So that was pretty freaking wild, pretty freaking creepy. Naysayers may say, oh, you were just kind of sleeping. Maybe you were in that half awake, half asleep state, and you just imagined because you knew about that eBay listing. True, maybe that's true. But I've also lived in my house for a while. I know what my house sounds like. I know what it sounds like when somebody's walking up or down my hall. And it absolutely was the sound of somebody going up and down the hall. Keep this in mind for my next encounter with the doll. Amanda and I had both decided that neither of us wanted to keep this doll at our homes. We both kind of wanted to just send her off somewhere else. So we actually had a giveaway for the doll. And the winners were Hex Files Podcast, which ended up being great friends of mine, Josh and Tamara. They were the ones that were lucky enough to win Betty the doll. So I happily said farewell to Betty, packaged her up, sent her to her new home, and she has lived there to this day, and she seems to be pretty happy there. They also have had kind of their own weird experiences, but Betty just seems to enjoy being there. Like, they haven't had any issues or anything, messing with their energy or their dreams or things like that. So that is good to hear. Now, I did get the pleasure of reuniting with Betty, and it was an experience. So remember the footsteps in the hall. I had invited Josh and Tamara to do a documentary with me. So we were in Pennsylvania and we were staying at an Airbnb for the duration of the filming of this documentary. Which, side note, sadly, I don't think this documentary is ever going to see this light of day, and I'm really sad about that. Anyway, we were filming a segment where I get to see Betty again. They brought Betty with them for this occasion. So we're sitting there kind of just recapping my experience with Betty, the experiences that they have had, and Betty's sitting on a table in between our chairs while we're talking about her. While we're having a conversation, we kind of look at each other because we hear a noise. And so we stop talking and we listen, and you could hear what sounded like movement on the next floor above where our bedrooms were. And we even kind of joked that it was Betty up and running around and causing some chaos. We ended up finishing our interview. And then at some point, we went upstairs to go to bed. Our rooms were next to each other. Josh and Tamara were in one room and I was in the other. The rooms had a ceiling fan with light and it was controlled with a remote control. And I come into my room and I get the remote control off the bed where I had set it earlier in the day because I'd gone in there and laid in the bed and had a little break and relaxed. And I remember turning off the fan and the light with the remote and setting it on the bed. So I grab the remote again and I'm trying to turn the light on, turn the fan on. Nothing's happening. And I keep pushing the button. I'm like, what the heck's going on? And then Tamara comes into my room. She's like, are you trying to turn on your fan or your light? And I was like, yeah, I'm pushing the button, but nothing's happening. She was like, because our fan and light is going crazy right now. And I was like, wait, go back into your room then and let me push the button. And I did. And it turned on and off her fan and her light with the remote that was in my room. I was like, whoa, 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 wait a minute. Use your remote now and see if it makes mine go off. And so she used her remote, and of course, it turned on and off my light and my fan. And we realized the remotes had been switched. Somebody or something had taken the remote from my room and switched it with Josh and Tamara's. I guarantee you that is the sound that we heard of the commotion on the floor above us during our interview was freaking Betty causing some fun, causing some chaos. Anyway, if you want to read more details about Betty, you can check out my book, The Witch's Guide to Haunted Objects. There's also a bunch of other stories in here, as well as stories that others have submitted to me with their experiences with haunted objects. And then there's also a lot of really cool, fun ways that you can interact with your own haunted object of how to investigate it. And it is The Witch's Guide, so it's a little bit more spiritual techniques and things like that. Anyway, stick around. Make sure you subscribe to my channel. Hit the little bell so you get a notification because the next video, if you thought this was wild, the next video is crazy and it involves, I don't throw out the word evil easily, but I feel like something evil was absolutely attached to the next objects that I'm going to be talking about. All right. Talk to you later.